The war in Donbass is an armed conflict in the Donbass region of Ukraine. From the beginning of March 2014, demonstrations by pro-Russian and anti-government groups took place in the Donetsk and Luhansk oblasts of Ukraine, together commonly called the Donbass, in the aftermath of the 2014 Ukrainian Revolution and the Euromaidan movement. These demonstrations, which followed the annexation of Crimea by the Russian Federation, and which were part of a wider group of concurrent pro-Russian protests across southern and eastern Ukraine, escalated into an armed conflict between the separatist forces of the self-declared Donetsk and Luhansk People's Republics, and the Ukrainian government. Prior to a change of the top leadership in August, the separatists were largely led by Russian citizens. During the middle of 2014, Russian paramilitaries were reported to make up between 15% and 80% of the combatants. Between 22 and the 25th of August, Russian artillery, personnel, and what Russia called their humanitarian convoy, were reported to have crossed the border into Ukrainian territory without the permission of the Ukrainian government. Crossings were reported to have occurred both in areas under the control of pro-Russian forces and areas that were not under their control, such as the southeastern part of Donetsk Oblast, near Novoazovsk. These events followed the reported shelling of Ukrainian positions from the Russian side of the border over the course of the preceding month. Head of the Security Service of Ukraine Valentin Nalyvaichenko said that the events of the 22nd of August were a direct invasion by Russia of Ukraine. Western and Ukrainian officials described these events as a stealth invasion of Ukraine by Russia. As a result of this, DPR and LPR insurgents regained much of the territory they had lost during the preceding government military offensive. A deal to establish a ceasefire, called the Minsk Protocol, was signed on 5 September 2014. Violations of the ceasefire on both sides were common. Amidst the solidification of the line between insurgent and government-controlled territory during the ceasefire, warlords took control of swathes of land on the insurgent side, leading to further destabilization. The ceasefire completely collapsed in January 2015, with renewed heavy fighting across the conflict zone, including at Donetsk International Airport and Debaltseve. A new ceasefire, called Minsk-II, was agreed to on 12 February 2015. Immediately following the signing of the agreement, separatist forces launched an offensive on Debaltseve and forced Ukrainian forces to withdraw from it. In the months after the fall of Debaltseve, minor skirmishes continued along the line of contact, but no territorial changes occurred. This state of stalemate led the war to be labeled a «frozen conflict». Background: Donetsk Oblast attempts to seize the Donetsk Regional State Administration building began since pro-Russian protests erupted in the eastern and southern regions of Ukraine. In the wake of the 2014 Ukrainian Revolution, pro-Russian protesters occupied the Donetsk RSA from 1 to 6 March, before being removed by the Security Service of Ukraine. On 6 April, 1,000–2,000 people gathered at a rally in Donetsk to demand a status referendum similar to the one held in Crimea in March. The demonstrators stormed the RSA building, and took control of its first 2 floors. They said that if an extraordinary legislative session was not held by regional officials to implement a status referendum, they would take control of the regional government with a people's mandate, and dismiss all elected regional councillors and members of parliament. As these demands were not met, the activists held a meeting in the RSA building, and voted in favor of independence from Ukraine. They proclaimed the Donetsk People's Republic. Luhansk Oblast. Unrest in Luhansk Oblast began on 6 April, when approximately 1,000 activists seized and occupied the SBU building in the city of Luhansk. Following similar occupations in the cities of Donetsk and Kharkiv, protesters barricaded the building, and demanded that all arrested separatist leaders be released. Police were able to retake control of the building, but the demonstrators regathered for a people's assembly outside the building and called for a people's government, demanding either federalization or incorporation into the Russian Federation. At this assembly, they elected Valery Bolotov to the position of people's governor. Two referendums were announced, one on the 11th of May to determine whether the region should seek some form of autonomy, and a second scheduled for the 18th of May to determine whether the region should join the Russian Federation, or declare independence. The Luhansk People's Republic was declared on the 27th of April. Representatives of the Republic demanded that Ukrainian government provide amnesty for all protesters, enshrine Russian as an official language, and hold a referendum on the status of the region. They issued an ultimatum that stated that if Kiev did not meet their demands by 1400 on the 29th of April, they would launch an insurgency in tandem with that of the Donetsk People's Republic.